Today I'm going to run you through the full process of opening a cafe, from that first idea right through to opening day. Now there's a whole lot of different ways this process can work, from military precision through to let's just make it up as we go. So I'm going to give you a process that I've used to open a new coffee shop, and it's one that I think is a process that gives you the best chance at success. Now there's a lot to cover, and so this doesn't end up as a 3-hour director's cut. I'm going to keep this to more of an overview of the whole process and not get too deep into the details. But I'll link to other videos down below that you can dive into if you want to learn more. Okay, so let's start at the beginning with a concept. So if you're watching a video like this, chances are you've got an idea in your head of the type of business that you're looking to set up. So before we get into a full business plan, it's good to start by getting your ideas out of your head and onto a piece of paper. Now it doesn't have to be complicated, one page is plenty. Here's a few things I think you should include. A description of the menu and the service model. What type of coffee shop is it? The type of location you're looking for, a description of the customers you're targeting, and maybe where you're planning to get the money from. Now it's tempting to skip this step, but putting things down on paper forces you to focus and it helps you test out your ideas before you spend a whole lot of time and money. Okay, so now we've got a rough idea down on paper, it's time to put our concept to the test. And we do that with some research. So here's some of the questions we want to answer. For starters, what sort of locations are available to rent or businesses for sale? And do they match the concept you had in mind? If so, what do they cost? What about the competition? In the area you're looking at, who are the key competitors? Go and buy a coffee. What sort of customers are they targeting? What's unique about their menu and what prices are they charging? Now it's good to take notes. These are going to be super helpful later on. All right, now what about your target customers? Now that you've seen what the competitors are doing, how does this compare with the customers you're planning to target? Here's where you might find some opportunities that others are missing. Now we can go back to the simple concept plan that you've put together and we can improve it with the information you've been thinking through. Now is the time to pressure test the overall concept and make changes where you need to. There's one more note I'll add in at this stage of the process. If you're new to hospitality, then I think it's really important that you prepare yourself, getting some hands-on experience. The reality of working in a cafe or coffee shop can be a shock if you haven't experienced it day in, day out. Yes, I know you host a mean dinner party, but believe me when I say this is really nothing like that. So the easiest way to do this is to find a well-run cafe and ask if they'll let you work some shifts for free. If you don't have any experience, then you'll be doing all the entry-level stuff, running out orders, washing up, cleaning. But you'll get a feel for how this environment suits you, and you can also copy any of their systems that work well. Oh, more paperwork. When do we get to the fun stuff? I know a big old business plan can feel like a waste of time, but it's really important to make sure we've done our homework and the numbers stack up. Believe me when I say that a few hours crunching numbers now is infinitely better than finding out your business model doesn't work down the track. Now the good news is you've got a head start on the process because you've already got a clear concept to build on. Now I can't give you all the ins and outs of writing a full business plan in this video, but for now I'll highlight some of the key information you'll want to include. Marketing plan. So this is going to go beyond what you've written in the concept. So who is this business for? How do we define our target market? Give us a summary of the competition, your competitive advantage. We'll need to put together an operations plan. So this is a summary of all the practical systems and tools you need to run this business. Things like workflow and equipment. You'll also want to include a location and lease plan. Describe that ideal location you're looking for and what sort of lease terms are you after. It's really good to have a plan for this and can help when you're talking with real estate agents. And people. So what sort of team do you need to run this? What sort of experience do you need that you don't already have? And finally, we need the dreaded financials. This is going to include setup costs, how much will you need to get up and running. We want to have a projected profit and loss and a break-even analysis. It's a good time to talk with some experts, like an accountant or other industry experts, to really check on the numbers and help you build out this detail. Okay, so if we've got a solid plan and we know where we're heading, it's time to find out if we can get the money we need to do this thing. Now, I'm sure some people are out there sitting on a great big pile of cash, but most of us are going to need to get finance of some sort to, make this dream come to life. And that generally looks like getting a loan from the bank or borrowing from friends, relatives, mum or dad. And so while you'll definitely need some cash to get started, it's worth noting that some items, like equipment, can be leased, so you won't actually need to have all that money up front. The bottom line is you will need more than you think, so add in a buffer to the build costs and add in some working capital to help you get through those early periods, particularly if there's delays. For me, choosing a location is just about the most critical part of the process. You can change a lot of other things with a cafe or a coffee shop, but moving location is usually not an option. So here's what I suggest. Have a plan, take your time and do your research. One of the most common reasons that cafes and coffee shops fail is due to a poor location or a location that just didn't suit the type of business. So if you're going to spend time on anything, do your research on location. Now I've linked another video down below that talks about the two different types of cafe, destination and convenience. Go check that out. It's got some really helpful tips on identifying what that location looks like. Okay, so once you've locked in a location, it's time to get the design happening. Now, a good designer will help you nail two key aspects of the shop: how it looks and feels and how it works. So some designers are good at one but not the other, so you'll need to weigh that up. But what will help them give you a great result is a really clear brief. Now that should be easy because you've done such a great job explaining the concept in the business plan. Now, a little note here. In my opinion, most people shouldn't DIY design. I know sometimes it's unavoidable. For most people, working with a really good designer will increase your chances of success greatly. Okay, so once you've got the design locked in, now it's time to find a shop fitter or a builder to help bring these designs to life. Now, one note I'll make about building a cafe or a coffee shop: things always cost more and take longer than you think. So try and factor in a bit of extra time and money to account for that. All right, you already know the type of thing you're planning to offer, so now it's time to start putting some details on this. So a great menu should appeal to your target audience. It should taste great, but it also has to be profitable. Now I'll get into how to calculate this and what I suggest you aim for in terms of profit in a future video, but for now, let's just say that you need a way to calculate the profit margin for everything you sell, so you know it's actually worth selling. And of course, once we've got a menu planned out, it's time to start talking to suppliers. You want to choose suppliers based on the obvious things, yes, like quality and price, but there are a few other things to consider that are a little less obvious. Like how often do they deliver, what times? This is really important for daily items like milk, bread and pastries. And for the coffee roaster, what training, service and support are included, particularly important if you plan on sourcing equipment through them. And also, what are the payment and the contract terms? Next up is equipment. Now, if you haven't bought commercial equipment before, you'll find out pretty quick that it's really, really expensive. That's partly because it needs to do exponentially more work than a home appliance, but it's also because it can actually make you more money over the long term. Here's how. The biggest expense for most cafes is labor, paying people by the hour. In a cafe, most of this work is repetitive manual labor, and this is the kind of thing that these expensive commercial machines can do really well at a much lower cost. The benefit is that leaves people to do the things that people are good at, like communicating with other humans or, pouring pretty patterns on lattes. So the bottom line is this: don't think of equipment purely in terms of price, but think about what it adds in terms of speed, efficiency, and the quality of the products you're serving. These tend to have a much bigger impact over the long term. Now, the secret sauce to a great cafe is people. Nothing will kill growth and your own sanity faster than having the wrong team. Now, by wrong, I don't mean bad people. I mean people that just aren't suited for a fast-paced environment dealing with humans all day. So hiring well is critical, but so is having a good induction and training system. This helps you build a great culture from day one. Now listen, I know it's hard to find people. Sometimes it's tempting just to pick up anyone with a heartbeat and give them the job. But if you've got to choose between someone that's got skills and experience and someone that's got the right attitude, then I'll tend to lean towards the person that has the right attitude. Here's the trick with marketing. If you've nailed your research, location, design, and so on, then you've actually already done the most important part of marketing. It's true. It's usually the simple things done right that are going to drive the growth of a cafe or a coffee shop over the long term. Of course, you'll also want to set up some digital accounts, usually a website, Instagram page, and a Google business listing are the essentials. But to be honest, I find a lot of people put too much time and effort into these things. Sure, for some businesses, they're really impactful and powerful, but I've found for most cafes and coffee shops, focusing on the fundamentals is actually going to deliver a bigger result than just posting a lot on Instagram. Now, when it comes to the actual opening, many cafes deliberately open unannounced, what's called a soft opening, so they can work on their systems and training. But then they also have a marketing plan ready to go after the first few weeks so they can start to drive new business when the time comes. So I'll finish with this. It's okay if things don't go exactly to plan. In 25 years working in coffee, I don't think I've seen a single coffee shop open exactly on time or on budget. Make sure you start with some contingency and tweak the budget as you go. Okay, so that's a basic overview of the process that I use to open my cafe and that I recommend to others. I hope it's been helpful. I'll see you next time.